Who takes the blame when millions disappear and supercars vanish overnight? Is it the silent CEO in the boardroom, the finance director with the spreadsheets, or is it the man everyone saw smiling in the showroom, promising customers their dreams? For GVE London, that man is George. If you've followed the collapse of GVE London, you've seen his name everywhere, on emails, on WhatsApp, in customer complaints and angry forum posts. He was the voice of confidence, the expert in suits, the man people trusted with their most prized possessions. And when it all fell apart, it was George that the angry crowd demanded answers from. His public statements, "I'm just a long-time employee. I never owned shares. I didn't control the money." But, for many, that's not good enough. Because in the luxury world, trust is personal. Customers don't just buy cars, they buy into relationships. They hand over six-figure Ferraris and Lamborghinis to someone they believe knows the market, someone who reassures them at every step. At GVE, that person was George. He was there for the handshake, the private viewing, the after-sale call. So, when payments vanished, cars went missing, and administrators took over, George's name became the lightning rod for all the anger and loss. Is it fair? Is he a scapegoat or the architect of the disaster? Was he just doing his job, or did he cross a line between employee and enabler? This is the story of a scandal where one man's reputation is on trial, not in a court of law, but in the court of public opinion. Tonight we go beyond headlines and hashtags to ask, when a supercar dream turns into a legal nightmare, who really deserves the blame? And does being just the face mean you escape responsibility? Behind every scandal lies a web of decision-makers, enablers, and silent watchers. To understand how blame sticks or slips, we need to know the cast. At GVE London, George was never the only one in the room. The top was the CEO and the board, figures rarely seen by customers but holding ultimate authority. They approved the business model, the rapid expansion, and risky sale or return deals that put other people's cars on the company's balance sheet. They set the tone and, in good times, collected the praise. But as GVE London's troubles mounted, these leaders disappeared from the narrative, shielding themselves behind company statements and legal teams. Then came the finance director, the back-office staff, and the legal advisors who structured contracts, managed payments, and maintained a thin layer of compliance. Their names rarely appeared in the spotlight, but their decisions, choosing how and when to pay customers, reporting to creditors, and deciding how long to delay bad news, shaped the unfolding disaster. In the final days, as complaints flooded in, George became both the messenger and the shield. He was the one answering desperate calls, explaining delays, and sometimes going silent as the pressure mounted. Online, customers shared screenshots of his messages. Some saw him as the last honest broker, others as the one who should have sounded the alarm sooner. The blame game is never simple. Power is not just about job titles, it's about who controlled the information, who set the culture, and who had the chance to change the outcome. In the storm of GVE's collapse, all eyes turned to George. Was he complicit, or caught in a system bigger than himself? Was he the mastermind, or just the messenger sent to face the mob?
If you ask a dozen GVE London customers who is responsible for their lost cars and vanished payments, most will say one name first: George. He was the face on every sales deal, the sender of the reassuring WhatsApp, the man who calmed nerves when payments were late, and the one who always promised a solution was close. But what does that really mean? Was George the mastermind behind the scheme, an essential cog in a broken system, or simply the scapegoat left behind when others fled? For years, George thrived on personal connection. He made every customer feel special, calling them by name, remembering their preferences, offering them exclusive deals. He was the closer, the one clients trusted even more than the faceless executives or slick PR. As the business expanded, his workload grew. More cars, more clients, more pressure to deliver. He fielded complaints about slow payments, lost paperwork, and missing vehicles, sometimes with genuine concern, sometimes with bland reassurances. "We're just waiting on the bank. It's a busy week. I'll check with the accounts team." But as GVE London's financial cracks widened, the tone shifted. Instead of fixing problems, George often became the buffer, stalling angry customers, buying time for a company running out of it. He repeated management's lines, sometimes knowing there was little truth behind them. His public posts tried to calm panic. His private messages grew shorter and less frequent. Then, as the collapse became public, he released statements distancing himself. "I don't own shares, I don't make financial decisions, I'm just a long-serving employee." Is that enough? Should a person who personally handled so many deals, who stood as the face of trust, be able to walk away with clean hands? Or does being the bridge between management and clients mean sharing the blame when the bridge collapses? Some customers say George was powerless, just as deceived as they were. Others argue he knew enough to warn them or to refuse to sell a promise he couldn't keep. The truth may be somewhere in between, but in the chaos, nuance is lost and blame is blunt. Focusing all anger at George may feel satisfying, but it risks missing the bigger picture. The systematic rot that allowed GVE London's scandal to happen in the first place. No single sales director, no matter how charismatic, could have orchestrated a collapse of this scale alone. The business model itself was a ticking bomb. Sale or return agreements, while convenient for dealers, shifted enormous risk onto customers. GVE London was able to fill its showroom with high-value cars it didn't own, using them to create an aura of success and drive more business. This was not George's innovation. It was a strategy approved and encouraged by upper management and rubber-stamped by legal advisors. When the market turned or sales slowed, the financial strain landed hardest on those least prepared, owners and consignors whose assets were suddenly tangled in company debt. Corporate governance was equally flawed. Internal checks failed, warning signs were ignored, and financial reporting was often late or opaque. Some staff members raised concerns. Some saw red flags in delayed payments or repeated excuses. Yet the pressure to perform, keep clients happy, and maintain GVE's glossy public image outweighed internal dissent. In this environment, George was both a product and a prisoner of a culture that prized short-term gain over long-term stability. Even the legal system played its part. UK law offered only limited protections to customers acting as unsecured creditors. Regulators responded slowly, and by the time administrators stepped in, the damage was done. When collapse finally arrived, blame trickled downward. Executives lawyered up and disappeared behind closed doors. Financial officers went silent. The administrator's job was to account for losses, not mete out justice. George was left out front, the last man standing between furious owners and a faceless corporation. In the story told online, he is villain, victim, and every shade in between. But even if every word of anger at George were justified, the system that failed these owners remains unchanged. If there is one truth in the GVE scandal, it is this: 1,000 Georges could not have saved a business designed to fail its customers.
When the dust settled, what was left were the stories, raw, unfiltered, and painfully human. Owners who had trusted their dreams to GVE London now found themselves swapping tales of loss, betrayal, and anger in WhatsApp groups, online forums, and even late-night phone calls. Their voices shaped the legacy of the scandal more than any press release or legal statement. Some blamed George with a fury that's personal. He looked me in the eye and promised payment next week. He knew my family. He knew my plans. Then, nothing. Others, while devastated, hesitate. Maybe he was just following orders, doing what he was told, but he should have warned us or walked away sooner.
A few try to find answers from inside. Former staff recount impossible pressure, the constant drive to close deals, reassure clients, and keep the illusion alive even as accounts dried up. If you spoke up, you were told to keep quiet. If you pushed back, there was always someone else ready to step in. Some describe George as a loyal team player, others as a man trapped between angry bosses and angrier customers. Yet the longing for justice is rarely satisfied. For every angry post blaming George, there are calls for deeper accountability. What about the directors who set this up? The lawyers who drafted the contracts? The auditors who signed off on numbers? Some turn to the legal system, filing claims with administrators or even considering lawsuits. But the wheels of justice move slowly, and often the law cares more for paperwork than promises. What unites all victims is the pain of waiting. Some are still hoping for a payout. Others have accepted their losses and just want answers, an apology, or a change to protect others in the future. The search for justice becomes as much about recognition as recovery, about being heard, not just compensated. In the end, the scandal is not only about who is blamed, but who is left unheard, and whether the next George or the next customer will see the warning signs before it's too late. As the GVE London scandal fades from the headlines, the lessons remain, etched in the memories of owners, echoed in every never again posted online. Blame, while satisfying in the heat of crisis, is rarely enough to create change or closure. For some, targeting George was a way to focus outrage, but for others, it exposed the real challenge. How do you fix a system that makes scapegoats out of the visible and lets the invisible escape? The hard truth is, scandals like this do not happen in a vacuum. They grow in the shadows of weak oversight, flawed incentives, and cultures where relationship and reputation mask real risk. The warning signs, delayed payments, vague contracts, management silence, are almost always there. But trust and glamour drown out skepticism until it's too late. For every George, there are dozens more in the background. Executives who sign off on dangerous strategies, lawyers who draft loophole-written agreements, accountants who sign off on questionable filings. The collapse of GVE London is a reminder that responsibility in business is shared, not singular. The real cost is borne by the owners, whose dreams became paperwork, whose assets vanished into legal limbo, and whose voices were drowned out by excuses and finger-pointing. Many will never see their cars or money again. Some will avoid luxury markets forever. All will carry the lesson: never mistake personal connection or familiar face for genuine protection. So what should change? Regulation must keep up with the scale and sophistication of today's high-value asset markets. Dealers should face real scrutiny. Sale or return must be governed by transparent, enforceable rules, and all stakeholders, owners, staff, even customers, must demand more than image and charm. As for George, his name will always be attached to GVE London, fair or not. But the next scandal, the next collapse, may have a different face. Only a system built for transparency, accountability, and true protection will stop another generation of owners from asking, who's really to blame? If this story struck a nerve, share your thoughts below. Who do you hold responsible, and what must change so this never happens again?